If this beautiful story touches your heart, subscribe to the channel to receive more stories every day. That night, the sky suddenly darkened, and heavy clouds covered the city like a silent warning of what was to come. The wind began to howl, shaking trees and roofs, while the first thick drops of rain pounded against the asphalt. In no time, the storm turned into a true deluge, flooding streets, knocking down power poles, and leaving entire neighborhoods without electricity. Donna Marta, a hard-working woman who had always faced life's difficulties with courage, watched it all from her small house in a community in the region. With her feet already submerged in the water invading her living room, she rushed to save what she could: documents, some clothes, old photographs she cherished. But it was all in vain. The floodwaters gained strength, and within minutes her house was completely overtaken by muddy water. Desperate, she managed to escape in a hurry, with only the clothes on her back, holding her young grandson's hand. The boy's frightened eyes reflected the terror she tried to hide. With nowhere to go, she found shelter in an improvised community center, where dozens of other families were also seeking refuge. Throughout the night, as the storm battered the city, Donna Marta wondered how she would start over after losing everything. The next morning, even though she was exhausted and without prospects, she made a decision. She would go to work. Her sense of responsibility had always been greater than any difficulty. And so, with a heavy heart, and her body still damp from the cold of the previous night, she headed to Neymar's house, unaware that that day would change her life forever. The sun had barely risen on the horizon when Donna Marta got up from the thin mattress where she had slept that difficult night. The community center was filled with whispered voices and tired looks from people who, like her, had lost everything. Her body ached, and her heart was heavy, but she refused to give in to despair. Working at Neymar's house had always been her security, and even in the midst of tragedy, she decided to stick to her routine, wearing the same clothes from the previous night, now dry but stained with flood mud. She left to catch transportation. The city was still in chaos. Flooded streets, scattered debris, abandoned cars. People walked around disoriented, trying to grasp the extent of the damage. During the journey, she held back tears several times, but with every memory of her destroyed home, the lump in her throat grew tighter. When she arrived at Neymar's mansion, the contrast between the two worlds had never seemed so stark. The tall gate, the impeccable garden, the pool glistening in the morning light. Nothing there had been affected by the storm. Taking a deep breath, she passed through the gate and headed to the service entrance. Some colleagues were already there chatting, but when they saw her, their smiles faded. Her sad expression betrayed that something terrible had happened. "Marta, what happened?" one of the employees asked, concerned. It was at that moment that Donna Marta could no longer hold back her tears. With a choked voice, she explained that her house had been taken by the flood, that she had lost everything, and that she didn't even know where she would sleep that night. Her colleagues hugged her, trying to comfort her, but nothing seemed to ease the pain. What no one expected was that Neymar would overhear the conversation. From one of the hallways in the house, he passed by and noticed the unusual commotion. He had always had a special affection for Donna Marta, admiring her dedication and humble nature. Realizing something was wrong, he decided to approach to better understand the situation. What he heard deeply moved him. Without hesitation, he made a decision. He needed to do something to help Donna Marta, and what he would do next would surprise everyone. Sitting on one of the benches in the service area of the mansion, Donna Marta held a cup of coffee in her trembling hands. The warmth of the drink did little to warm her heart at that moment. The colleagues around her wore worried expressions, some even with teary eyes, feeling the weight of what she had just shared. "I tried to save some things, but there wasn't enough time. The water came too fast. My house, my home." Her voice faltered, and she shook her head, trying to hold back tears. "I left with only the clothes on my back and my little grandson by the hand. Now I have nowhere to go." The silence that followed was heavy. No one knew what to say. Donna Marta had always been a strong woman, facing any difficulty with courage and a smile on her face. Seeing her like this, defeated and hopeless, broke to everyone's heart. "Marta, what are you going to do now?" one of the employees asked, concerned. "I don't know. The shelter where I slept last night is full. I don't even know if they'll let me stay there another night. I'll figure something out. I always do." She tried to force a smile, but her tired and desperate eyes revealed the truth. This time, she didn't know how to start over. Neymar, who had been observing the conversation from a distance, felt a tightness in his chest. He had known Donna Marta for years and knew how dedicated and hard-working she was. He couldn't let her go through this situation without doing something. Determined, he slowly approached and, in a calm but firm voice, asked, "Donna Marta, tell me exactly what happened." She looked up, surprised to see Neymar there. For a moment she hesitated, not wanting to bother him with her problems, but his attentive and sincere gaze encouraged her. With a deep sigh, she began to repeat her story, this time directly to him. The player listened to every word carefully, without interrupting. When she finished, Neymar crossed his arms, thoughtful. Then, without saying much, he simply said, "Leave it to me, we'll figure this out." Donna Marta didn't immediately understand what he meant, but something in the way he spoke brought a small sense of relief to her heart. She didn't know it yet, but Neymar was about to change her life forever. Neymar remained silent for a few seconds after hearing Donna Marta's outpouring. Her tired and defeated expression showed the weight of the tragedy she was facing. He knew Donna Marta was a strong woman, always dedicated and smiling, even in the face of difficulties. Seeing her in that state broke his heart. "Donna Marta, did you really lose everything? Nothing was left?" he asked, trying to better understand the gravity of the situation. "Nothing, my dear. My little house was taken by the water. I only managed to get out because I grabbed my grandson and ran. The furniture, the clothes, my documents, everything was swept away. I don't even know where to start." She sighed, wiping her eyes with the edge of her apron. Neymar felt a tightness in his chest. He knew that for many people, losing a home wasn't just about losing a place to live. It was about losing years of effort, memories, security, and dignity. He couldn't let this pass as just another sad story. He stood up slowly, placing a hand on Donna Marta's shoulder. "You've always taken such good care of everything here. Now it's my turn to take care of you." Donna Marta blinked a few times, not understanding. The colleagues around her also exchanged surprised glances. "What do you mean, Neymar? What are you saying?" she asked hesitantly. He simply smiled and pulled out his phone. With a few taps on the screen, he made a call. "Hey bro, I need a favor right now. Can you arrange a comfortable hotel for someone very special? It's urgent." As he spoke, Neymar stepped away slightly, but Donna Marta could still hear parts of the conversation. "Yes, everything paid for, and I want to look into something else too." She stood still, trying to process everything. A hotel? For whom? For her? What was he planning? The colleagues began to whisper, some already emotional at the player's gesture. Neymar returned a few minutes later, putting his phone back in his pocket. "Donna Marta, grab your things. Tonight you'll sleep in a dignified place, and I'm not stopping there." Her heart raced. For a moment she wanted to refuse, to say she didn't need it, but the truth was that she did. And Neymar's firm gaze made it clear that he wouldn't take no for an answer. What she didn't know was that this would only be the first surprise. The next day, something even bigger would happen. Donna Marta was still stunned by Neymar's words. She hadn't expected help, much less such an immediate gesture. Always used to fighting alone, she hesitated for a moment, but the determined look in the player's eyes left no room for refusal. "Come on, Donna Marta. No arguments." "You can't be without a roof over your head," Neymar insisted with a gentle smile. With the help of her colleagues, Donna Marta grabbed her bag, which barely contained anything beyond a few documents and a handkerchief she had managed to get, at the shelter. The thought of sleeping in a comfortable hotel seemed surreal, a stark contrast to the previous night, when she had curled up on a thin mattress at the community center. A few minutes later, a black car with tinted windows pulled up at the service entrance of the mansion. Neymar made sure to accompany Donna Marta to the vehicle, opening the door for her as if she were a queen. "Get some rest, Marta. We'll talk tomorrow," he said, winking at her. The ride was silent. As she looked out the window, Donna Marta felt a mix of relief and disbelief. When she arrived at the hotel, she was greeted with respect by the staff, who had already been informed of her arrival. The room was spacious, with a soft bed and perfumed bathrobes. Seeing all of this, she broke down in tears. She took a hot shower, something that felt like a luxury after the tragedy, and allowed herself to rest as she hadn't in a long time. For the first time since the flood, she felt that maybe there was hope. The next morning, when she woke up, she found an envelope by the bed. Inside was a simple note, written in Neymar's handwriting. Donna Marta, today your new beginning truly starts. Meet me at 10 a.m. I have a surprise. Her heart raced. What else could Neymar be planning? Donna Marta held Neymar's note in her trembling fingers. Her heart sped up at the cryptic message. What did he mean by, your new beginning truly starts? Gratitude already overflowed within her for simply having a dignified place to spend the night. But now it seemed something even bigger was coming. She hurried to get ready. She ate breakfast at the hotel, but every bite of bread felt unnecessary in the face of the anxiety she felt. Before 10 a.m., she was already ready, sitting in the lobby, her hands restless in her lap. That's when a hotel employee approached her. Donna Marta, the car is ready to take you. She stood up slowly, as if she still couldn't believe all of this was happening. She got into the vehicle and soon noticed the driver was taking a different route than usual, veering away from the path to Neymar's mansion. Where are we going, son? She asked, suspicious. The driver just smiled through the rearview mirror. Mr. Neymar asked me not to tell. It's a surprise. The car drove through wide streets, passing through the city's more upscale neighborhoods. Each turn increased Donna Marta's curiosity. Suddenly, the car slowed down in front of an elegant building with a modern, well-kept facade. The driver got out first and opened the door for her. There, standing on the sidewalk with a calm smile, and his hands in his pockets, was Neymar. We're here, he said excitedly. Donna Marta looked around, confused. Where are we, my son? Neymar gestured for her to follow him. They entered the building, and the doorman greeted them with respect, as if he already knew who she was. They took the elevator to a high floor, and when the doors opened, Neymar walked to a door and unlocked it with a key. Come in, Donna Marta. Welcome. She took a hesitant step inside the apartment. What she saw left her speechless. It was a spacious, airy space with new furniture, cozy decor, and a spectacular view of the city. The sofa was an elegant blue, the kitchen sparkled with modern appliances, and the bedrooms were impeccably arranged. It looked like a dream. Donna Marta turned to Neymar, her eyes wide and her voice choked. My God, Neymar. What is this? He smiled and handed her a key. This is your new home, Donna Marta. Now you have a new house. She brought her hands to her mouth, feeling her heart race. Her legs weakened, and for a moment she thought she wouldn't be able to stand. Tears came uncontrollably, streaming down her wrinkled face. No, this can't be, she murmured, shaking her head. This is too much, my son. Neymar held her hands tenderly. You deserve much more than this. You've always taken care of me and everyone else with so much love. Now it's my turn to take care of you. Donna Marta broke down into heartfelt sobs, mixed with smiles of happiness. She had never imagined something like this would happen to her. Everything she had lost in the flood had now been replaced with something even greater: security, dignity, and proof that there were still generous people in the world. And as she sobbed with emotion, all she could say was, "Thank you, my son. Thank you. Thank you." But the surprises weren't over yet. Neymar's gesture would soon spread and move millions of people. Donna Marta felt her legs go weak, as if the ground had disappeared beneath her feet, still holding the apartment key. In her trembling hands, she looked at Neymar with a mix of disbelief and profound gratitude. Tears streamed down her face, and she tried to speak, but the words simply wouldn't come. My son, this is too much. She brought her hand to her chest, feeling her heart racing. Neymar smiled and held her hands firmly. You deserve it, Donna Marta. You've always taken care of us with so much love. I couldn't let this happen without doing something. She shook her head, still unable to believe it. She walked slowly through the apartment, running her hand gently over the furniture, the curtains, the kitchen counter. Every detail felt like a dream. The smell of newness, the impeccable organization, everything was perfect, and it was hers. Unable to hold back her emotions any longer, Donna Marta knelt in the middle of the living room, covering her face with her hands, crying as she hadn't cried in a long time. It was a cry of relief, gratitude, and hope. Neymar quickly knelt beside her and held her shoulders. "Hey, you don't need to do that." He smiled, trying to hold back his own emotions. "You deserve so much more." Donna Marta looked up at him with tear-filled eyes. "My son, I've spent my whole life working, struggling, worrying about having a little place, and in one night I lost everything. But now, God used you to change my life. I'll never forget this." She held Neymar's hand tightly as if trying to convey all the gratitude she felt. Donna Marta's co-workers who had come to accompany her were also crying, moved by the scene. Some were filming the moment, and without anyone noticing, the video quickly began to spread on social media. As Neymar helped Donna Marta to her feet, he smiled and said, "Now you have a home again, and you can be sure that me and my team will take care of everything you need for this new chapter." Donna Marta hugged Neymar tightly, a hug full of gratitude and affection. In that moment, she knew her life would never be the same. What she didn't know was that just a few hours later, the story of her resilience and Neymar's generosity would be spreading across the world, moving millions of people. A few hours later, the video of Donna Marta crying with emotion as she received the key to her new home began circulating on social media. At first, it was her co-workers who shared it, proud of Neymar's generous gesture. But quickly, the story took on a scale no one had expected. Fan club accounts, news pages, and influencers began reposting the video. Within hours, millions of people had already watched and commented on the player's act. Neymar's name rose to the top of the day's trending topics, not for an incredible goal or a new football achievement, but for an act of humanity and solidarity. This is more than football. This is character. While many just talk, Neymar makes things happen. Donna Santasi. Marta deserves this. What a beautiful gesture. Sports journalists, celebrities, and even athletes from other countries praised the player's actions. The story reached television, being featured on national and international news. Reporters went to the community where Donna Marta lived to show the damage caused by the flood and the importance of what Neymar had done for her. Meanwhile, Donna Marta was still trying to process everything. Sitting in the living room of her new apartment, she received dozens of messages and calls from friends and relatives who had seen the news and wanted to congratulate her. She had never received so much attention in her life. But what moved her the most was when she received a call from a friend who was still at the community shelter. "Marta, your story is touching so many people. People want to help more families here. Your video has made people wake up." It was then that Donna Marta realized her story had gone beyond her own new beginning. Neymar's gesture hadn't just changed her life, it had also inspired others to mobilize and help those in need. When he heard this, Neymar smiled with satisfaction. "That's exactly what I wanted," he commented to a friend. But he knew there was still one important detail missing for Donna Marta to truly feel at home, and he already had it all planned for the next day. The next morning, Donna Marta woke up in her new home with a feeling she hadn't felt in days: peace. The sun streamed through the window, gently illuminating the living room where she was still, trying to get used to the idea that this space was now hers. She took a deep breath and got up, still overwhelmed by a mix of gratitude and disbelief. However, as happy as she was, something still weighed on her heart. Despite having a roof over her head again, she had lost almost everything: her clothes, her personal belongings, the few mementos she had kept from her life. She looked around and felt that, although the apartment was beautiful and cozy, it still lacked something to truly make it feel like home. That's when she received a message on her phone. It was from Neymar. "Donna Marta, I have one more little thing for you today. Wait for me, I'm on my way." She smiled, shaking her head. What else could he possibly do? He had already given her more than she could have imagined. Less than an hour later, the doorbell rang. When she opened the door, she was completely speechless. In the building's hallway, an entire team of helpers was bringing in boxes and more boxes, bags and furniture. There were new clothes, extra appliances, kitchen utensils, and even a reading chair, just like the one she had in her old house and had lost in the flood. But what really made her heart race was when one of the workers brought a photo frame with a picture of her family, the only one she had managed to save, but which had gotten wet in the flood. Neymar not only had it restored, but also placed it in a new frame. "I know a home isn't made just of walls," he said, smiling. "It's made of stories, memories, and I want you to have all of that here too." Donna Marta brought her hands to her face, crying once again. She didn't know how to thank him. "My son, you've already done so much." Neymar laughed and shook his head. "Donna Marta, you've taken care of me so many times. Now I'm just giving back a little." They hugged tightly, an embrace that said more than any words could. In that moment, Donna Marta knew her new beginning was complete, and that, despite the difficulties, life could always surprise with acts of love and generosity. And so, with a heart full of gratitude and a home filled with new memories to create, Donna Marta smiled, ready to write the next chapter of her life. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and leave your like so more people can discover stories that change lives.